Okay, folks, I'm just trying to set up the TikTok thing. Yeah, I just set up the TikTok background so that there isn't any drama. TikTok won't say that they see me scratching myself and that it looks enticing. You know. So, welcome to our class today. We are continuing the Cinderella deception, and I will share with you why we're continuing with it. I was going to actually work on another story, but there was we had a member class, not the this immediate weekend pass, but the one prior to that. Uh, was it a member class or community? No, we had some community with members, and um, one of the members asked the question, and hopefully she will be here this evening because even though I answered the question, I started thinking about not just the question she was asking, but the reason why she was asking that question. And in our spiritual inquiry and our spiritual lives, we want to do that kind of thinking, okay? And take the time where permissible to start digging below the surface. Okay. We want to know why people ask certain questions and why people do certain things and how what is going on with them can impede their spiritual practice and their spiritual lifestyle. Okay. And if we were talking about religion, it would impede their religious lifestyle and their religious beliefs. Okay. So please take a moment to give the class a thumbs up or heart, depending on the platform you're on. If you're on TikTok, some hearts will be appreciated. If you're on YouTube, some thumbs up for the live stream itself will be appreciated. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Tochi, aka Papa Dr. Tochi, Mama of the men's and the women's. And I can be found at drtochi.com or tochi.us. Okay. And you can book me for your spiritual consultations on my website. I also have events there. One that's coming up next weekend is the Reclaim Your Authority retreat that's going on for 7 days. Okay. That's a 7 day event. If you go to my website, go to the events page, you will find details on it if you'd like to register. Send me an email. Okay. My email is available on that post on the website, and we'll send you information on how to secure your seat for that retreat. That retreat is for teaching you how to reclaim your spiritual authority and to stop being at the power of other people and other things. That's what we do in the retreat. So we're not going to be going over other people's stories. We're not going to be talking about abstract philosophy or arcane spiritual principles. We're going to be demonstrating in practice how you can start regaining control over yourself, your spiritual practices, your life, your body, and your mind. Practical steps is going to be a challenging retreat. You can ask those who've already attended, they will tell you it is challenging, but and usually they start screaming the first few days, and by the last day, they don't want it to end. They're like, no, this has to continue. But I understand that all good things must come to an end. Even all bad things must also come to an end. Okay. Remember to get your notebook and your pen, your drink and your snack. I'm going to have some water here. I think I've snacked a little bit too much during this Valentine's weekend. So thank you to all the advanced members who attended yesterday's class. I knew it was challenging. You did have your Valentine, you had to put aside your Valentine things to attend, but I hope that the class yesterday was worth your time, okay, and effort. Have I covered everything? I think so. So let's jump into it, okay? If you're on YouTube, remember to give us a thumbs up. I want to see if that reaction thing is going to show. Yeah, there it goes. Yeah. For those of you on TikTok who don't know, when I give a thumbs up, um, my device then has bubbles of thumbs up showing up on the screen. So I think that's kind of cool. Okay, so let's get into today's class. Now I do have um some more stories that are also of the Cinderella pattern. But before I get into that, I want to revisit the Ocean Puddle story. Remember that Ocean Puddle is a German for ash girl, and that was one of the earlier variants of the Cinderella story. And remember, she was called the Ash Fool, or the Ash Girl, because her stepmother and her sisters forced her to sleep by the hearth, sleep in the ashes and in the dirt. They took away her fine clothing, took away her shoes, made a servant out of her. She was responsible for doing all the work. Um, she was responsible. They just made a servant slave out of her. Okay. When I was reviewing some other stories that were like the Cinderella story, okay, I came upon a detailed version of this Aschenputtel story. And when I started thinking about it, it was deeply disturbing. Okay. And remember again, the Aschenputtel variant of the Cinderella story was told by the brothers Grimm, and they had a darker interpretation of the story, and they put darker here. Oh my goodness. Did you see the hairnet thing is showing? I'm gonna push it back. You know, that was ruining my rich auntie vibes. You know, we can't be looking like a rich auntie with hairnet poking out. Hold on. Okay, remember 2026 is the year of the rich auntie. And so I know you folks on TikTok can't see me, but I am I'm gonna put on another wig. I want to I want to be the rich auntie. Here we go. We have fun on YouTube, don't we? Here we go. Ah, sometimes the hook gets into the hair. How about this? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna do this. Okay. So now I am the rich, okay, intriguing auntie. Now I'm not trying to look like Snow White or Cinderella, okay, but maybe it might help with the telling of the story. I don't know. How about that? Okay. All right. You know, we have fun here. Anywho, here are some things that bothered me about the Ashram story. Okay. Kionad is like, yes. Okay. Should I go ahead and put on some makeup? All right. So here are some of the things that bothered me about the Ashram story. The father, as I was going through the story again of Ashimpuru and how, hold on, I have some family members over and they're a little bit loud. Hold on. Mhm. There we go. So her father was aware. Her father was aware of what was going on with her. Because I remember going through the story saying, "Where's the father? Where's the father?" And if you're on TikTok, I put up a 10-minute summary of it, part four. So if you're on TikTok, there's I put out the part four summary. You might hear me at the beginning saying this is part three, but that's a mistake. It's part four. And the header and everything says part four. If you're on YouTube, I also put up a short, well, not so short, on this. But I also wanted to mention it during this class so that as we move forward, we can pay attention to this pattern. Akshenputtel's father, that's the quote unquote Cinderella's father, was aware of what was happening to her. And he actually betrayed her. The story, when we look at the Ashram story, it starts out by saying, well, he was a rich man and he had a wife and they had a daughter and they were doing well until the wife got sick and died. Okay. Then he went ahead and married this other woman who already had two other children. But I think there's a lot that wasn't said in that quick summary because how her father treated her was abominable. And so I'm wondering if the story behind the story is that he married his mistress or he married, the stereotypical scheming woman who took him away from his wife or maybe had a hand in the passing of his wife. And I say this because the stepmother and the stepsisters were able to take away Aschenputtel's or Cinderella's fine clothing, her shoes, demote her to sleeping at the hearth, gave her tattered, dirty clothing. Now, not everyone comes from a culture where there's a hearth. A hearth is a fireplace, usually in the living room, in the front room. What kind of father would see his own child sleeping at the fireplace in the front room? So he couldn't say, "Oh, I didn't know that this was going on." She was sleeping there. She was in rags. She was dirty all the time because she was doing all the chores, and that's where she was left to sleep. She wasn't even given a proper bed. He was aware of this. Now, when he went to town, there was a a fair going on. He asked everybody in the house, "Well, what would you like me to get for you?" The stepmother and the daughters stated they wanted clothes and shoes and, nice things. Okay. Ashimpado said she wanted a twig, the first twig that would touch his hat as he would walk through the forest to this fair. So whichever was the first twig that touched his hat, that she wanted that. Now the story doesn't tell us why she wanted the first twig that will touch his hat. But we can surmise that that twig would be like a witness. It's just like someone saying, I want you to bring back a witness who sees you, sees who you are, has touched you, and will see me. I mean, because the symbolism there is very deep. The symbolism there is pretty deep. She didn't just say, oh, just any piece of wood, twig you see on the way, you can bring it when you're coming or going. No, she said, as you're heading out from the house, that first twig that touches your hat, that's what I want as my present. In the story, we don't see any dialogue where the father is questioning why she wants this twig. There's nowhere there he's saying, why am I buying clothes and shoes and wonderful gifts from my second wife and her kids and my own child from my own loins is asking for a piece of wood, a branch, and that's okay. He doesn't question it. And guess what? That's exactly what he did. I'm also thinking he probably didn't have the courage to ask for more. That maybe at this point, since he allowed her stepmother and stepsisters to treat her this badly, that he was going to allow anything and going to question anything and everything that pertained to her well being. So she had to ask for something that wasn't going to cost him any kind of money, something that he couldn't complain about. So, just looking at that part of the story made me understand that the father was aware of what was happening to his daughter. He was aware. For whatever reason, he did not care. And matter of fact, he joined in her oppression. He was a participant. He may not have been leading the oppression at that point, but he was a willing participant. Because when he came back with gifts, he came back with that twig, that piece of branch that she asked for. No questions asked. So she takes this twig and she plants it on the grave of her mother. And the story says she now planted it and made it grow, watered it with her tears. That's a lot of crying. And she kept on doing this until that twig grew into a big hazel tree. That tells me this situation with Aschenputtel or Cinderella was going on for a very long time. It went on for a very long time. Okay. And the father did nothing. This for me, as far as that Cinderella is concerned, or Aschenputtel, in this German version, that tells me that she endured a high degree of betrayal. And therefore, she was traumatized by the betrayal of the one who was supposed to protect her. I remember a couple of weeks ago, we did a class on the betrayal, healing from betrayal trauma, and we looked at different kinds of betrayal trauma and the signs of betrayal trauma. Remember some of the signs of betrayal trauma we examined was people tolerating, explaining away what the betrayer was doing to them, justifying it, saying that, oh, the betrayer probably had a good reason for doing it. Remember, we also said another sign of betrayal was confusing love with attachment. If I'm attached to this person, then it must be that I love them and they love me because we're attached. This was her father. This was Cinderella's father. Ashampadal's father. This was her father. So she's sitting there, she's thinking, if my own father allows this, I am sure there's a reason. And besides, my mother, when she was passing, she told me, be obedient, be good, be pious. And when you pray, I will hear your prayers and I will help you from heaven. And she believed this. So I'm picturing a young girl, very, very young girl, put into servitude by her father's wife and her father's stepchildren. And she has this blind, unquestioning faith that she will be rescued. And so it didn't matter what they were doing to her. At some point, all she's saying to herself is, I will be rescued. So every day she would go to her mother's grave and pray and cry. And then the father got her that piece of wood, that piece of branch, the twig, and she planted that twig on her mother's grave, and that thing grew into a tree. That tells me years, it takes years for a tree to grow. And all this while, she's still praying and crying at her mother's grave. A magical white bird now started visiting this tree and talking to her and giving her encouragement. And the white bird told her, if you come here and pray and let me know what you need, I will get it done for you. And I'm looking through the story saying, okay, you have this tree, you have a magical white bird that will answer your prayers, will do for you whatever you want. Why are you not asking for your emancipation? Why are you not asking for a better life? Why are you not asking to have your stepmother, stepsisters, at the very least, punished? Why are you not asking to find out why your own father has betrayed you for the sake of your stepmother and stepdaughter? She is not doing that. She has a white bird, magical white bird that will do anything she asks. But she does not ask for her freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is what betrayal trauma looks like. This is what the attachment, mistaking attachment for love, looks like from someone who's suffering betrayal trauma. They think they are loved because they're attached to the betrayer. They keep offering excuses and explanations on behalf of the betrayer. They will use their gifts and talents on behalf of the betrayer and others that betray her or him. Because in Ashrampuddle's story, we see that the stepsisters, they would throw the peas into the ashes. Remember, she slept at the hearth. She slept at the fireplace. And so they would take the meal, they're supposed to eat the peas, the lentils, all these legumes, and dump them in the ashes, and they will tell her to pick them out from the ashes. After picking them, she had to wash them and clean them and cook them. And she would do that without complaining. She would do that without rebelling. She would do that obeying her mother's last wishes. Be good, be pious, be obedient. Don't cause trouble. This is this is mind-boggling because someone who is in their right mind would say, "What the hell am I doing here? I got a magical white bird that will do anything for me. Why do I have to live here? Why do I have to live like this? I've had enough." But Ashimpoto doesn't have enough presence of mind to think like that. So the reason why I mentioned this, remember at the beginning of the class today, I said we had one of our members, she asked a question. We were having community, I believe 2 weekends ago, or no, in the middle of the week. Um, we just had time together. And she asked a question. We were talking about how to get rid of the things that no longer serve us, and I was sharing how I've been giving away a lot of things that no longer serve me, the things that I've been holding on to, especially clothes and shoes that I will no longer fit into. And the inner work that goes along with that. Okay. And decisions that one needs to make for themselves. And then in that class, in that community, um, others who were there, we had a couple of elders there. People were sharing, okay, here's what's going on with me that I need to stop immediately. And people talked about different things that they were going through or things they were doing that they didn't want to do, but they were doing for whatever reason. And one of the members came, and those of you who followed me for a while know that I'm not into gobbledygook. I'm not into vague languaging. I'm not into corporate languaging when it comes to our spiritual world. And one of our members, she started saying, "Oh, well, I'm going to start prioritizing my spirituality." And I challenged that. I said, "So what the hell does that mean?" Because she wrote that and she was writing some other things. "Oh, one thing I need to do is to prioritize my—" I said, "But in practical terms, all of us here are talking about practical things we're doing. Practical. I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to stop hiding myself. I'm going to stop hoarding stuff. I'm going to stop." So, and you're here giving a corporate answer. "I will start prioritizing my spirituality and something about values and something and whatnot." And I said, "I think that's a bullshit answer. Considering where we are and what we're doing, I will call that a bullshit answer." And this member started saying, "Well, I'm being defamed by a close loved one." And I want you to pay attention to that language. Close loved one. And I pushed back and I said, Someone who is a close loved one to you will not defame you. Someone who loves you and is close to you will not defame you. So what are we hiding here? And then the member said, okay, I guess choice of words, it's a family member. What I meant to say was a family member. That's betrayal trauma. And this member was, well, how do I get this person to stop? And I say to this member, you are the problem, not the other person. You are the problem. And the person's like, well, how am I the problem? And so we looked at an example. When Trump put out the AI picture or AI video of the Obamas depicted as apes, did the Obamas say anything? Did they say anything to them? And so we went back and forth on that. She said she wasn't aware. She didn't know anything about that. Now, this is big news in America. And we all live in America. And this member said, no, I'm not aware. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. And other people said, no, the Obamas did not respond. And I posed the question, so why didn't they respond? And this member's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. That is a symptom of betrayal. When we have been betrayed by people close to us, it wrecks our nervous system. You're right, it was beneath them to do so. But the reason why the Obamas did not respond was because they're good. They don't have anything to defend. And people rose up on both sides of the aisles, both Republicans and Democrats, and roundly condemned the White House. And it was pulled less than 24 hours after it was posted. My understanding is that the current president tried to defend it again yesterday over the weekend. Brought it up again and was trying to defend it. And then Obama finally responded and said, we don't deal with clowns. We don't deal with clowns. But that's not the point. We're not getting into the political battles and whatnot, and name calling and shaming and humiliation rituals of the political class. That's not the point is. The point is that the Obamas are regulated or have people who keep them in regulation to let them maintain their boundaries. To the point that it was evident to everyone who witnessed that spectacle that a boundary was crossed. And people from both sides of the spectrum rose up to defend them. So I said to the member, I said, that's why it's your problem. You teach people how to treat you. You let them know what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. You cannot be out here asking people, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? Which is what this member was saying. Well, what should I do? What do you tell me to do? We can tell you what to do, but if you choose not to do it, we speak to you in vain. We counsel you in vain. We advise you in vain. And that's what I realized was going on with Ocean Puddle. Ocean Puddle, you are in your father's house, a wealthy man. He brings in another wife with the two daughters. I can understand maybe you were too young to defend yourself, physically defend yourself, and psychically defend yourself, psychologically defend yourself. I understand that. However, as years go on, you have, I don't know who advised you, but you got this twig, this branch that you told your father to get for you. And for whatever reason, even though he was witnessing what was happening to you, his betrayal was very complicit because he was witnessing her humiliation, but he did nothing to stop it. He did not intervene. He did not defend her. He did not protect her. He participated. And so you're able to get him to bring you a piece of wood, a branch that touched his hat, which has spiritual significance in itself. Why his hat? Not why not the first twig that touches you? She said the first twig that touches your hat. Hat, heart, your head. I want you to bring a witness that sees what's going on in your head and in your heart. An intimate witness from nature. In our spiritual practice, one of the strongest set of witnesses you can get is nature. And this is the reason why, if nature is my witness, and you lie against me, and you betray me, humiliate me, do all kinds of things to me, and I invoke nature, it will be hard to escape because nature will not bear false witness. So even he with his own hands brought in a witness from nature that witnessed to his betrayal of his own seed, his own blood. Okay. So we don't know who advised her to do this. We don't know who told Ashimputul to do this powerful thing. So she plants this tree, waters it with her tears, and then it grows. That takes years for a tree to grow. And as that tree is growing, she is still in those deplorable conditions. She's still being used, misused, and abused by her stepmother and stepsisters. She's still sleeping at the hearth, at the fireplace. She's still being called Ashimpuro, the ash girl, the ash fool. German speakers in the house, please step up. They're calling her Aschenputtel, and she's responding to it. She accepts that name. She accepts that label. Even her father calls her Aschenputtel. And this continues. So the tree grows, and then there's this magical white bird that likes coming to this tree, and the bird talks to her. The bird has magical powers. And the bird says to her, I will do whatever you ask me to do. As long as you come to this tree and pray at this tree, let me know what you need. I will do. Ashrampuddle doesn't even ask for her freedom. She doesn't ask for vengeance. She doesn't ask for adjustment of status. She doesn't ask for wealth. She doesn't ask for a husband. She doesn't ask for children. She doesn't ask for a home of her own. She doesn't do or say or ask for anything that will improve her situation. She continues living in her deplorable conditions. That is trauma from betrayal. Remember when we looked in that class 2 weeks ago, we talked about betrayal trauma. Many victims of betrayal hope, and they hope against hope, and they hope in the back of their minds that one day those people who betrayed them, those quote unquote close loved ones who betrayed them, will one day come back to them, apologize to them, and make things right by them. That's their secret hope, secret desire. But that's magical thinking. And this magical thinking is held up by religion. Forgive. Turn the other cheek. Forgive 70 times 7. Your reward is in heaven. Don't take vengeance. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Forgive your enemies. It will be like pouring heaping coals on his head. Notice that it says it will not heap coals on his head, but it will be like heaping coals on his head. And this is assuming that the enemy cares. Because if you had an enemy like that stepmother and the stepsisters, there is no amount of kindness that will make it seem to them like coals are being heaped on their head. They will say, ah, yes, we can keep on doing what we're doing. She's telling no one, she's complaining to no one, she's not revenging, she's not getting help. All is well. So, Ashampuro, you have this awesome ally. When there was that festival when the king was looking for someone to marry his son, the prince, Ashampuru's stepmother gave her onerous tasks to perform to prevent her from attending the festival. Everybody was going to this party because they knew the prince was looking for a wife. And to make sure that Ashimpuro had no chance, or like they would say, to make sure that she had an ice cube's chance in hell of meeting the prince, the stepmother gave her impossible tasks to do. She was trying to get permission from her stepmother to attend the festival. And the stepmother said, no, you're too dirty. You don't have clothes. You have no clothes. Remember, these are people who took away her fine clothing and shoes when they moved into her father's house. They took away, they dispossessed her of her finery. They defaced her. You will not be beautiful. We live in a culture that depends on youthfulness and beauty and attractiveness, and we will dispossess you of all these things. We will strip it of you so that you will have no chance to rise and survive in this society. That's basically what happened. Because back then, it wasn't like women went out and got jobs the way we do today. Your ability to do well in life depended on your looks, your composure, your comportment, how you appeared, your connections, your lineage. That's how you moved up in those societies. And it still happens today for women. So they denuded her. They stripped her of all the things that will help her survive in her society. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the bottom of the pyramid is what? Food, clothing, shelter, security. And they stripped those things from her. And Abraham Maslow says if you don't meet those basic needs at the bottom of the pyramid, it will be very difficult for you to rise and do higher level things like make money, be stable, achieve self actualization, be part of your society. Do you see why I have been emphasizing for years that it is important that you learn how to make money? Have your own money. Have your own money. Have multiple sources of income. Are you connecting the dots? Because money will provide you with food. Money will provide you with clothing. Money will provide you with shelter. Money will provide you with security. People will say to you, money is not everything. And when you ask them, why would you say money is not everything? Well, money can get you love, and money can get you respect. And all those things, those ideal attributes, respect and love and contentment, and you don't get them if you're not secure. You don't get them if you have a dysregulated nervous system. When you're always in the fight or flight, freeze or fawn states. You don't get those higher states when you're unstable. You don't know what's going to happen to you tomorrow. And so this is why we have to be careful about people who come out in these streets and they'll say to you, "Oh yeah, once I recognized who I was and I started embodying wealth and things started coming to me effortlessly, and now I'm living the life of my dreams. I used to sleep in my car. Now I live in a $2 million condo." They're not telling you what they did to achieve the bottom level of that pyramid. They're not telling you how they stabilized their food. They're not telling you how they stabilized their clothing. They're not telling you how they stabilized their shelter. They're not telling you how they stabilized their security. They're not telling you. They're just saying, oh, yeah, I started visualizing. I started seeing myself in other they're not telling you everything. And then they'll put up pretty videos on TikTok, social media, things of that nature. They'll go choose good backgrounds, and you will say all is well. Oh, it must work. Y'all just saw me now change my wigs. I took off my gray wig and I've put on this younger looking wig. And you have just seen right now how my appearance has changed. I can put on this wig, this longer, prettier wig, put on makeup, and tell you about a rich lifestyle. But I didn't, but if I didn't tell you or you didn't see for yourself me take off the gray wig, gray short wig I had on and put this one on, you'd be like, oh my God, she has all this luxurious human hair. Look at all this hair she has. She never wears rough hair. This is how it is with the world. Appearances. So as I'm reading the story again, I come to realize that Ashampano is unable to make decisions on her own behalf because she was deprived of the basics. She was unable to make decisions on her own behalf, to defend herself, to protect herself, to make right decisions for herself because her nervous system was on fire. She was always in survival mode. When we are in survival mode, and write this down in your notebooks, write what I'm about to say in your notebooks. I remember you're supposed to have your notebook and your pen with you. Write down what I'm about to say in your notebook. If your nervous system is on fire, you cannot make the right decisions for yourself. If your nervous system is on fire, you cannot make the right decisions. If your nervous system is dysregulated, you cannot make the right decisions. You cannot think for yourself. And so while the rest of us out here are busy being inspirational speakers and motivational speakers, think for yourself, think for yourself, do this, make money, don't tolerate nonsense, know your worth, tell them you will not take it anymore. And we're telling you all these things to do. We are not taking into consideration whether you can do it or not, whether you have the capacity to do this or not. A lot of us are not taking it into consideration. It is very easy to tell someone, do it. Yes, just do it. Decide. Be disciplined. Go for what you want. Disregard public opinion. Plow through. The person you're telling this thing, do they have the capacity? If my nervous system is on fire, if I am not sure where my next meal is coming from, where I'm going to sleep, if I have enough clothes to cover my nakedness, if I'm going to be safe, I can't think straight. No, it's not possible. I will make poor decisions. Those things that you are telling me not to do, I will do because I am looking to soothe my nervous system. So I will drink, I will smoke, I will use, I will allow myself to be used. Because my nervous system is on fire. My mind is unstable. My mind is in a state of high alert. Yes, Keonard Carter, survival mode is real. Survival mode is debilitating. This is why that even though Ashrampuddle had access to this magical white bird that would do anything that she wanted, she didn't have enough presence of mind to say to that bird, free me from my living conditions. This is why. And like I said, I'm reading through the story of Ashrampuddle, and I'm like, you have this magic bird, and you're still living here with your wicked stepmother and stepsisters, and you're living here with, as far as I'm concerned, your wicked father. This is why it impacts our spiritual lives as well and our spiritual practice. Because when you are in survival mode, when I am in survival mode, I don't know what to ask for. I don't know how to ask for what I want. I don't even know what I want. And so I'm going to go out there. I'm listening to Dr. Tochi. Dr. Tochi says, yeah, come and join my cult. If you join my cult, you will be free. I join. Dr. Tochi says, come and join my church. If you join my church, you will be free. You will experience freedom. You will have a mansion in heaven. I join. But I am still unhappy. I am still hungry. I'm still naked. I'm still unsafe. I am still insecure. I have no stability because my basic needs have not met. This is one of the secrets of governments, especially in developing nations. I don't say it doesn't happen in developed nations, but in developing nations, this is the reason why they are able to still keep people under their control. If you look at developing nations, go and look at Africa, look at South America, look at the Caribbean. As long as the people are hungry, as long as they're naked, as long as their shelter is not confirmed, as long as their security is not confirmed, as long as they're insecure, they fear for their safety, they will not have enough presence of mind to fight for higher level things like self-actualization and freedom and other things, society, creativity, spirituality. There's no way they're going to do those things because they're busy fighting for survival. This is why when you read the Bible, Jesus fed the 3,000 and fed the 5,000. Why? Because in that story, even Jesus knew that a hungry person would not listen to his message. So he had been preaching and preaching and preaching and talking and healing and teaching and preaching and healing and doing all these things. But if you read that part of the New Testament, it says, he noticed that they were hungry and tired and they had nowhere to go. So he's like, we got to feed this people. Even Jesus knew, if I did not feed these thousands of people who are here gathered to listen to me, they will not understand what I'm telling them. They will not take action on what I'm telling them. They will not internalize what I'm telling them. So I have to feed them. They have to have food in their belly, and they need to sleep. They need to rest so that they can understand my message. So do you see how deep this Cinderella story is? Because even if you look at the current versions of Cinderella, we still see these patterns. A young girl put to servitude in her own home, and her father does nothing about it. That's betrayal. She doesn't know if she's going to get her food regularly. She doesn't know how much food she's going to get. That's food insecurity. Okay, they thrash her whenever they like. That's insecurity. She don't know when they're going to kick her awake to go and start doing chores. She doesn't know if they'll let her. Remember, we looked at the what was the Russian tale of Vasilisa? Her stepsisters pushed her out of the house into the dark forest. It was dark, and they say, "You go to Baba Yaga and get the light." And the stepmother and the daughter stay within the safety of the house. They stayed within the safety of the house. So they had a roof over their head, they had clothes on their back, they had foods in their belly. They were secure, and they pushed her out into the darkness and said, "Go find the light." And their hope was she was going to go there and perish. So how do you think straight? That's why Vasilisa, even though she had a magical wooden doll that would do anything she asked it to do, she didn't use it correctly. So we have spiritual principles, and we don't even use those principles correctly because we don't even know how to ask. We don't even know what to ask for, and we're so dysregulated. We're not here. So Ashimpuro, here comes the festival to marry where the prince is to get married. It's supposed to be a 3-day party. Ashimpuro asks permission of her stepmother. Can I go? And the stepmother says, "Oh, hell to the nizzy." And gives her 2 hours to pick through a pile of peas thrown into the ashes, thrown into the dirt, and says, "I want you to pick these peas." She threw them into the dirt and said, "Pick them. You have 2 hours to do this." Whole pile of peas. Imagine that somebody took a pile of beans, threw them in the dirt, and told you, "Okay, get down and pick them." You got to pick them, and they have to be clean. You're going to be down on your knees picking these legumes. But she threw them in the dirt. You have to pick them all. So what did Aschenputtel do? She cried. She went to the tree, cried to the magical white bird, and said, "Look at what my stepmother is doing to me. I need help." So the bird, and she asked the bird to bring other bird friends to help her pick the peas out of the dirt. So the white bird does exactly what she asked for. Gets other birds and they come and pick all the peas out of the dirt. She takes these peas and presents it to her stepmother and says, "Can I go to the party now?" And the stepmother says no, and takes some 2 plates of lentils and throws them in the ashes in the fireplace and say, "Pick those. You have 1 hour." Ashimpuddle goes back to the tree, cries to the white bird. The white bird comes with other birds. They come to the fireplace. I'm sure that the stepmother at this point is seeing what's going on because it's right there in front of her eyes. And they pick through that in less than an hour, in minutes. They've picked up all the lentils and the ashes. And Ashimpuddle presents it to her stepmother and say, "Can I go to the party now?" And the stepmother says, "No, you don't know how to dance and you don't have clean clothes." This part of the story in itself is so loaded. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is so loaded. This tells me, first of all, that her mother and her father were aware that she had powers to redeem herself from her situation. Well, let's start with the stepmother and the stepsisters before we get to the father. They knew she had what it took to liberate herself from her bondage. They knew, but they also knew that she was missing, she wasn't connecting the dots. If you have the power to command birds to help you pick these beans, do you not have the power to ask these birds to do more than pick beans for you? But it didn't occur to Ashimpuddle because she was traumatized. And she was only doing that which was before her eyes, living one day at a time, one task at a time, one chore at a time, one errand at a time. And many of us are living like this. We don't see the big picture. All we're seeing is my close loved one who is defaming me. That's all we're seeing. Ashampuddle had the power to free herself from bondage, but she didn't know it. Instead, she was using her power to serve the system of bondage. She was using the power to satisfy the system, the institutions that were keeping her in bondage. She was using her powers to help those, to do work for those who were keeping her in bondage. Are you picking up what I'm dropping here? Is anybody picking up what we're dropping here? Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you, Kionad. Gordon. Is anyone picking up what we're talking about here? Thank you, Scorpio Intuitive. Anyone on TikTok getting what we're saying here? Thank you, Mrs. Allen. Thank you, Simone Signature. If I have the power to overthrow the system, why am I not doing that? If I have the power to free myself from bondage, why am I not doing that? If I have the power to free myself from bondage, why am I not doing that? Why am I using my power to serve the person or the people keeping me in bondage? That is the trauma from betrayal. That is trauma speaking right there. Cinderella was traumatized. She was a very, extremely traumatized young woman. But we're being told this story not to heal the trauma, but to say, if you believe in this magical religious thinking we're putting out to you here, which is keep on hoping and praying and crying, you will be rescued. And it doesn't matter how long it takes, keep on praying and crying, you will be rescued. Do you see how disempowering that is and how deceptive that is? So Ashampuro's stepmother clearly could see she had magical help. But she could also clearly see and understand that Ashampuro didn't know how to use that power on her own behalf. So she was not worried. So Ashampuro, with the help of the birds, was able to accomplish all the tasks that her stepmother gave her to do. And still stood there and asked her stepmother for permission to go to the party. And the stepmother said no and disqualified her. You have no dresses and you cannot dance. And she left for this party with her own daughters. So what does Ashampudel do? She goes back to the tree again and cries to the magical white bird. Does this look familiar, anyone? We don't get what we want. We go to church and we're crying. We're so emotional. We're praying, God help me. Jesus help me. We're praying to our egregores, help me. If you're not a Christian, maybe you go to your mosque. Oh, the prophet help me. Allah help me. If you're not Muslim, you probably go to the synagogue. If you're not Jewish, you go to a temple or shrine. Maybe you're into traditional religions. You start crying every day to your orishas to help you, your luas to help you. Oh, help me, my spirit guides. Maybe you're into hoodoo. You're calling on your ancestors to help you. Y'all help me, help me, help me, help me. And your spiritual crew is there looking at you saying, why are you asking for a plate of food when you can have the whole farm? Why are you asking for a motel room when you can have a whole mansion, a whole house? Why are you asking for crumbs when you can own the bakery? But you haven't asked for the bakery. You haven't asked for the mansion. You haven't asked for the farm. You're just asking just enough for the day. Help me survive today. Help me get through today. Help me make my oppressor happy. Remember the story I told about one of my spiritual daughters here who went to make an offering at the ocean and all her offerings were returned to her? And she's like, Mama T, I'm so depressed. I made an offering to my water spirit guides and everything was returned to me. And I said to her, and rightfully so, if I were your water spirit guides, I would have stoned you with your offerings. And she's like, what? Why? Because you are asking your spirit guides to make you subservient to those that have less power than you do. Why should they help you? Because that was her petition. Is this person out here who has more power than I do, a close loved one, and I want this person to understand I am willing to obey them and do anything that they want. I want you to make them accept me. Let them understand that I'm being submissive. And her spirit, her water spirit guides and her spirit crew said, fuck that. We don't want no part of that. Is this what you're supposed to be doing? And I said to her, if I were one of your water spirit guides, I would take one of them coconuts or one of them bananas or whatever the heck it was you were offering. I would smite thee upon the brow with it. I would take it and smite thee. You will be smitten upon the brow. Because you're about here asking for the wrong thing. So when people say, oh, my spirit guides never speak to me, that's not true. Smite, smite, smite. Come back when you get it right. That's funny. So Ashimpado goes back and starts crying at the tree. And the magical bird comes and she says, give me gold and silver. Give me whatever I need. All the things I need to get me to this party. And that should have been what she should have asked for at the beginning. Now come and help me pick the beans. But now, after her stepmother and stepsister left, then she started getting smart. So she went to that bird and she was like, I need an outfit for the party. I want to go to the party. I want to get to this party. So the bird says, done. Drop her a gold and silver dress with silk slippers with silver stitching, and she goes to the party. Why did she waste all this time picking beans, picking peas, picking lentils, doing chores when she could have asked straight up, take me to the party? Disregard the mofos I'm living with, take me to the party. Okay. So day one. So she shows up. She's the most beautiful girl at the party. The prince dances with her all night long, ignores all the other women. And at some point, she has to go home because she doesn't want her stepmother and stepsister to get home and discover that she's not there, sleeping by the fireplace, sleeping at the hearth, sleeping in the ashes. Do you see how trauma is? Now you are tasting freedom, but you still feel comfortable with bondage. You're dancing with the prince. You are in the house of wealth and power and prestige, but you're still thinking about how you can go back and fit into your house of bondage. You're still thinking about, oh, I know I'm here, I'm having fun, I'm dancing with the prince, I'm having a good time. But I have to be mindful. I don't want my stepmother and stepsisters to realize that I'm not at home in my assigned position. McDad, you're very correct. Bondage is familiar. And the trauma is familiar too. So she escapes. And she escapes by running into a pigeon coop. Guess who came to cut down that pigeon coop to make sure that she would not come to that party again, her own father. Her father went to the pigeon coop where she ran into, put it down. Don't find it, but he put it down. So that tells me her father, her stepmother, and her stepsisters knew it was her at the party. And they knew that she was figuring out how to use her magical powers to help herself. They knew. So her own father was like, I am going to stop this. And this happens to many of us. Once our family members or close loved ones discover that we have certain spiritual gifts that we can use to help ourselves and to help others, they will block it. And we allow them to block it because we don't know any better. We stay with them because we're attached. It doesn't occur to us that, hey, if I have this amount of power, why am I still here living with this person? No, because as human beings, we love to be included. We love to be part of something. We want to be part of a family. We feel we can't survive out there with strangers. Better, remember that saying, better be with the devil you know than the angel you don't know. And many of us believe that. So on day 2, she goes to the party again. Her bird friend gets her another outfit, another pair of slippers. She goes to the party. The prince dances with her and no one else. Time for her to go. She escaped into a tree or something. The father went there and cut that one down, destroyed it. Because as far as the father is concerned, whatever is giving you that power to liberate yourself, whatever is giving you that power to live an abundant life, I will destroy it. I will take it down. Her own father. And you would have thought at this point, Cinderella or Aschenputtel should say to herself, wait a minute, if my father is acting against my own interest, what the heck am I still doing in his house? Oh no, she stays there. Mhm. Doesn't it sound familiar to what a lot of us are still doing today? Oh, he loves me. He's not in his right mind. He's complicated, but he's a loving person. If he didn't love me, he wouldn't let me sleep under his roof. Yes, you're sleeping under his roof as a servant, and other people are living under the same roof as royalty, and you don't see the difference. You don't notice the difference. You're just grateful for crumbs. And you don't demand more, even though you have more rights. Aschenputtel was the daughter of her father, but her stepmother and her stepsisters, who were not blood relatives of her father, had more power and rights in her own father's house. And Aschenputtel did not see any problem with this. And many of us don't see a problem with this. Oh, and we will offer excuses. Oh, yeah, I know my manager gives me all this work to do. And I know my manager talks to me like an idiot, even though I'm 40 years old, even though I'm 50 years old. I know my manager treats me badly and has other favorites. But I'm sure my manager has a good reason. My supervisor knows what he's doing. My manager, she knows what she's doing. I have to stay here. I don't know where else I can go. Even though I'm in my 30s, even though I'm in my 40s, I don't know where else to go. Even though I'm an American citizen, even though I'm a whatever citizen, And I can see other people in this country are doing well. Even people who come from other countries who are not citizens are doing well. I don't think there's a way out for me. It's their fault. They hate me. They're treating me badly. If they didn't, I would have a better life. But the power is right there in your hand. That's trauma. And we'll blame other people. We'll have no problems blaming other people. We have no problems blaming other people for our predicament. So day 3, Ashampado goes back to the birds and says, I need another outfit. So they give her a gold dress and solid gold slippers. The pièce de la résistance. She goes to the party, dances with the prince again, and this time the prince sets a trap and puts tar on the stairs. So now when it's time for her to go and escape, one of her golden slippers gets stuck to the stairs, but she runs away nonetheless with the remaining golden slipper and the outfit. So after she leaves, the prince says, aha, now I have something of her I am going to use to track her down. And the story says he took that slipper to Ashimpudo's house. So what does that tell me? He knew who she was. That tells me the prince knew who Ashimpudo was. Because the story says he went to her house. He knew her father. He knew who she was. So he went to the father's house. He didn't say now that, they spent a lot of time trying to find out. No, he went to her house. He may have asked questions along the way, but he went to her house. So the prince knew who she was. At the very least, he knew who her father was. And so there was a conversation. That tells me for the prince to go to Ashimpudo's father's house means that there had to have been a conversation. He couldn't have just started making his way to Ashimpudo's house without talking to her father. Well, let's find out how the father handled the situation. So the prince gets to Ashimpudo's house, and her stepmother and the stepsisters are there. Thanks for liking the live, Empress Forever Wellness. And the stepmother says, oh, I have 2 daughters here. Let them try on the golden slipper. So the first daughter comes out and puts her foot in this golden slipper. And her foot is too big for the slipper. Her toe, her big toe was too big. So her big toe prevented her from fitting the slipper. Her mother starts singing to her, cut it off. Cut off that big toe. You don't need a big toe. When you are a wealthy woman living in a house like that, you don't need a big toe. When you're living in the house of power and prestige, if that's the price you have to pay in order to live at this elevated lifestyle, sacrifice that toe. So the first daughter of the stepmother listened to her mother and cut off her toe. When she cut off her toe, her foot fit perfectly into this golden slipper. And the prince said, "Aha! Now I have my bride." Let's stop here for a minute. You went to somebody's house and you said, "I want to find the owner of this slipper." Somebody came and right in front of you was trying to force their foot into the slipper. We're watching. The person was forcing their foot into the slipper. The person cut off their toe to fit into the slipper. And you said, "Ah, this is the person I'm looking for." Are you daft? Are you blind? Are you out of your mind? But this is the prince. I brought, please, somebody help me understand this. This is the slipper. Somebody now is trying to fit this slipper. Their foot can't fit into the slipper. They're forcing. They can't fit into the slipper. You're there watching. Then the person cuts off their toe and they put it in there, it fits. You're like, "Aha, this is the person I'm looking for." The person you were dancing with for 3 days, were they dancing with a missing toe? Please, I need to go into my African persona for this because this logic is beyond Western understanding. Are you mad? You decrease something they do you for head? You mental? You don't colo? So you can't, you danced with somebody for 3 nights. You did not look at the person's face. You dance, and you know, dancing then is not disco dancing, is not rave dancing, is not amapiano. This one you would dance hand in hand, chest to chest. Somebody you were dancing with all night long. You went to her father's house. Another person came. This person doesn't even resemble the person you were dancing with. The person said, "Let me cut my toe." The person cut her toe. You say, "Ah, okay, all requirements satisfied." Don't you see that even the prince is a madman? Don't you even see the prince himself was a madman, a stark raving. He needed injection. He needed injection. You know those injections they give mental health people. When they give them that injection, their senses will come back. That's what he needed. Anyways, back to regular programming. So this prince leaves the house with this woman on his horse. And as they ride away, she's bleeding in this gold slipper. Remember, this was a solid gold slipper. solid gold. So I'm imagining, if you have something that's solid gold, it's not flexible and is not porous. So she's bleeding. And as he's riding back to the palace, the birds that were in the tree on Ashimpudal's mother's grave came down and started singing to him, "Prince, oh prince, the person you're carrying is not the true owner of that slipper. She's bleeding. Turn back and look. She is bleeding." So the prince turns back and sees that the person he's carrying is bleeding, and he goes, "Oh no, you can't be the right person." So he turns back and takes her back to her father's house with the slipper, with the one slipper. I mean, there's so many things wrong with this story that it's just mind-boggling. So you have somebody who cut off their toe, put their foot in the slipper. You didn't even ask, "Where's the second slipper?" You just started taking her home. Okay, so the bird said, "This person you're taking home is bleeding." So he looks, she's bleeding indeed. He takes her back home. So the stepmother presents the second. A missing toe is not a Lego block they can remove and reattach anytime you want. I'm I'm just the messenger here. So the stepmother presents her second daughter. The second daughter now tries to put her foot in the same slipper, and it's too big. Her heel wouldn't fit into it. Her mother starts singing the same thing. Cut off the heel, lop it off, lop it off, lop it off. You don't need a heel to live in a wealthy home. You don't need a heel. There's a small price to pay to be the wife, the queen. So the second daughter cuts off her own heel, and her foot now fits the slipper. The prince goes, "Aha, this must be the right one." At this point, while I'm going through this Ashimpidal story, I'm now understanding that the prince himself is not okay. Okay. I came to the conclusion that he had some mental health issues himself. So he leaves with the second daughter. Same thing happens. As he's riding past Ashimpudal's mother's grave, the birds come again and say, "Prince, oh prince, this one you're carrying is also bleeding." So the prince turns around and looks at her. Lo and behold, she's actually bleeding. Mm, Probably so. Focused on the honeymoon night, probably. So he turns around and takes her back to the father. So we're looking at a case where you are having these men who are taking wives that they're not even looking at very closely. Women as property, women as acquisitions. If I can get this thing and it doesn't give me trouble, I will take it and put it amongst my other possessions. Even though Ashimpuro danced 3 nights with this prince, he still did not see her. He was looking at her, but he didn't see her. I repeat, he was looking at her, but he didn't see her. And this speaks to the invisibility of the victim. This speaks to the invisibility of women in these kinds of societies and structures and institutions. He's invisible. because I don't know how you're going to dance with somebody for 3 days. And other people are masquerading themselves. And you're saying, this person I danced with for 3 days is the person I want to marry. This is the person I desire. This is the person I'm going to make my princess and make my queen. And after 3 days of dancing with this person, you can't recognize them. What does that say about you as a man? What does this say about you as a human being? This speaks to the invisibility of women in places of power, in places of prestige, in places of wealth. Oh, let's get this marriage thing over and done with so I can go back to whatever it is that I'm doing. That's how I interpret it. So he picks the first sister. He's about to go with her until a problem surfaces. It brings her back. Oh, you lied to me. I thought you fit the requirements. You didn't fit the requirements. I'm going to take you back. Picks the second sister. Same thing. I thought you were going to fit the requirements. It looks like you have problems. Women become disposable items. So he comes back with a second one. And then he confronts Oshimpuddle's father and says, is there no other woman in this house? And I want all of you to pay attention very closely to how Oshimpuddle's father responded to this. And this is heartbreaking. Oshimpuddle's father now says, well, there is another female here, a serving wench. Ah, God. A serving wench left behind by my late wife. Mhm. Let me get the exact phrase. Because this is painful. Let me see. Mm. And now I want to see because there's a place I wrote it down. I want to read it exactly how this man said it. Let's go to this other version. This is painful. Okay, I'm looking here through my notes because I wrote down that phrase and I was like, okay, I'm not seeing it here. I don't know why it kind of vanished. Okay, I was looking at my notes here. Let's see if I could find it. But basically, the father said, yes, there's another female here, but she's a tiny serving wench left behind by my late wife. What does wench mean? Wench. Wench. It's an Old English term meaning a girl or young woman. It is also a verb. When used as a noun, it means a girl or young woman. So basically, he called her a serving wench, a serving girl, a serving woman, left behind by my late wife. He didn't say my daughter. He didn't say my first daughter. He didn't say my child. He said a serving wench, a serving girl left behind by my late wife. In other words, my late wife should have taken her along. So that statement in itself speaks to so many things. First of all, it positions the late wife as a burden. You were a burden, and when you were leaving, why didn't you take your child with you? Because he's saying basically she was left behind. He's not even saying bereaved. He's not saying motherless. He's saying left behind. In other words, the mother should have taken this child along, but she left the child behind. And the child is a serving wench, a serving girl, your own daughter. How worse, how much worse can this betrayal be? Imagine that you were the first child, the first daughter of your father, and he refers to you as a serving wench, a serving girl, as a servant. You were the servant. I think, and I was looking for the exact term because I think he was like saying there's a wretched wench, serving wench, you know, a nondescript. That's how he referred to his own daughter. Okay. When you use the word wench as a verb, it's when a man seeks or has numerous casual sexual encounters with women, especially women of low social class. A wench is a woman of a low social class. This is a wealthy man describing his own daughter as a wench, someone available for casual intimacy encounters. That statement alone painted a picture of Ashamputtel or Cinderella's life in her own father's house. This was the ultimate in betrayal, if you ask me. Ultimate. And it still happens till date. It still happens. There are many men who will go marry a second wife and turn a blind eye to how that second wife treats his children by his first wife. And when these children turn around and exact revenge, everybody acts surprised. Oh my God, why would you do such a thing? Why would you say such a thing? Why? Is that he's your father? The Bible says, honor your mother and your father all your day long so that your days will be long. And they will be quoting all kinds of things, but they won't quote, parents, do not provoke your children. And that's the thing about this betrayal. And so you're looking at this Ocean Poodle story. Do you see how her own father threw her under the bus? And it doesn't end there. So the prince asks for her to come. So she washes her face and her hands. She's still wearing her tattered clothing. And she steps forward, puts her foot in the golden slipper, and it fits perfectly. And the prince says, oh, now I have the right person. He still does not see her. No questions are asked. He's not saying to the father, how did you end up with your daughter being a serving wench? He's not asking, why is your daughter dressed in this dirty, ashy, tattered clothing? Doesn't ask. All he needs is a production unit. All he needs is a baby making machine that will not give him problems. Because remember, at the beginning of the story, Ashampuddle's mother said, be good, be obedient, be pious. Don't make trouble. Do everything you're told to do. And that's the picture of the ideal woman. One who doesn't complain. One who's compliant. One who allows herself to be used. And she doesn't complain. If she has any complaints, she complains to God. She complains to her ancestors. But she doesn't let her suffering interfere with the work of production she is here to do. She's here to produce. She's here to produce cookies, produce clean clothes, a clean house. She's here to produce babies. So here we have this prince saying, there we go. Here's the right one. No questions asked. And when we look at so many stories and folk tales and things, even when you look at the Quran, you look at the Bible, you look at the Tanakh, you look at so many books, you will see this pattern over and over again. And this is presented as a template for women. If you want to have a good life, be compliant, be obedient, be good, be pious. Don't make trouble, don't make waves. And you will have a good life. You will be rescued. You will be chosen. This is how you get chosen. And many of us still live our lives like that in the hopes that we will get chosen. And our spiritual crew, our ancestors have empowered us to do more and be more. But no, I'm going to sit here and wait to be chosen. So the prince takes Aschenputtel away. On the day of the wedding, guess who accompanies her in the church as she's going up the aisle to get married to the prince? The same two stepsisters that treated her like dirt all these years. Oh, Aschenputtel had a beautiful heart. She was forgiving. She was so pure. And she walked up to solemnize her freedom. The point at where she's going to solidify her freedom, to change status, to evolve, she allows herself to become accompanied by her enemies. This is somebody that had magical power. This is somebody who had magical tools. She had the magical bird. She had all this power at her disposal, but she allowed her enemies, her arch enemies, to accompany her to the biggest event in her life. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? I want you to look at your own life. Be authentic with yourself in this moment. Look at your own life. Where have you allowed your attachment to people, especially the so-called close loved ones, who were your enemies? How did you invite them along to accompany you to the fulfillment of your own dreams? But you will still complain to anybody who cares to listen. Oh, my family hates me. My family defames me. My family attacks me. My family doesn't like me. My family doesn't love me. My family sabotages me. My relatives they backstab me. My family, they betray me. They do this to me. They do that to me. But you keep them close to you. And then you will come to people like Dr. Tochi and say, How, how can I stop them from attacking me? Are you yourself in your right mind? And no, you're not. Because your nervous system is dysregulated. And remember what I said, when somebody's system is dysregulated, they are incapable of making the right decisions. So we go overeat, or we overdrink, or we oversex, or we overuse. We overwork out. We overwork instead of facing and dealing with the enemy. Oh, what will people say? But you're the one who's having the sleepless nights. What will people say? But you're the one who's anxious. You're the one who's depressed. You're the one who's resentful. You're the one who's enraged. It's you. And you keep going from person to person to person. What should I do? 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 And even if we tell you what to do, you're not going to do it. So we can see that this version of the Cinderella story is dark on so many levels. We have a young woman living with enemies, surrounded by enemies, eating with the enemies, obeying the enemies, pleasing the enemies, using all her gifts and talents at the service of her enemies, and waiting to be rescued. And she's being rescued by another person who doesn't even see her. She's being rescued by somebody who has his own agenda. Somebody who just says, oh, here is somebody who is compliant and obedient, will do what I tell her to do. So she's just exchanging one kind of bondage for another kind of bondage. So it's not a happy ending. It's not a happy ending. So McDad says to be mindlessly obedient is to lose our identity and to be slowly eaten from the inside. A human. She is alive but dead, like a dead branch that is still attached to a tree and refuses to fall. Correct. I agree with you. But the point here, McDad, is that many of us are living this way. It's a sad thing. Both men and women, we're living like this because men are trained oftentimes in toxic patriarchal homes not to see women except as means of production. There's this gentleman, Issa Bako, on TikTok, who put out a video today, and I commented on it. And he was commenting on the Russian guy who is he in Kenya? I heard he went to Kenya, and he also went to Ghana. And he had these meta, those glasses, those meta glasses with a recorder on it. And he was using it to record his encounters with African women. And he was showing how easy it was for him as a white Russian man to practically be intimate with almost every African woman he met in Kenya and in Ghana. And he was demonstrating how easy it was to be intimate with them, and he didn't even have to pay them anything. All he had to do was be nice to them, pay them compliments, invite them over to his hotel room, and was recording all the intimacy on his meta glasses. And not only was he doing that, he was posting everything online. And apparently, there were some more Russian men who were on their way to Africa to duplicate his success. And there's now, on TikTok, and people are there saying, what? I can't believe it. How can African women be so cheap? And their arguments pro and against and what's happening. But Issa Bako, who I believe is in New York or somewhere out there on the East Coast, he put forward an interesting argument. He said the reason why this is possible is because Black men, especially African men, do not protect their women. Because if the shoe were on the other foot and it was a Black man who went to Europe and put on those meta glasses and was recording how easy it was for him to to be intimate with white women, he would have been mobbed. He would have been lynched. And he gave examples of when white men in Europe were gang together looking for Black men to hurt just because Black men were dating their white women. Talk less of a Black man coming in and talking to women, paying them compliments, and then sleeping with them. He said if a Black man had been doing that, oh, there'd be terrible repercussions. They'd be looking for him all over the place because White men protect their women. Asian men protect their women. Hispanic men protect their women. But black men, especially black Africans, do not protect their women. And I put in the comments there and I said, well, there are reasons for this. We're talking about religious colonization, mental slavery, deep generational across the continent and across the Caribbean, across the Americas, wherever you find the black, where colorism has been institutionalized and whiteness has been encoded in the DNA of the black person as being superior. And secondly, you also have poverty. People will do things because, again, they need their basic needs met, both men and women. Thirdly, you also have the debilitating discourses put forth by people like the late Kevin Samuels and Andrew Tate and folks like that, who talk about the high value man and how most black women do not qualify for a high value man and therefore have to make do with whoever will choose them. And this is a conversation that at some point needs to happen. And I know somebody like Dr. Umar will be having a field day with this. Because anybody who knows Dr. Umar knows that he's against black folks intermingling with white folks. And I'm not here to say that one person is right over the other or one person is wrong. But why I mention it is that when men have been taught not to see women, it hurts women. And when women have not been taught how to see themselves, it hurts them. And there are times we think that our spiritual lifestyle and our spiritual practices are not working, but they are working if we work them. There are so many women who are spiritually powerless, not because they don't have spiritual gifts, not because they don't have spiritual power, but because they don't know how to use their spiritual gifts and spiritual power. They have no idea. So that's why I have these retreats and workshops that I'm having, like the one starting next Sunday. Reclaim your authority. How? So so when we talk about reclaiming your authority and level 2, embody your authority, what does that mean? Is this sitting and listening to me talk and talk and talk, or sitting and listening to somebody else talk and talk and talk, or somebody taking you by the hand and saying, this is how you use that white magical bird? This is what you do with that white magical bird. Here is how to determine what to ask that white magical bird to do for you. If you are in a household, for example, where you're busy fighting your mother-in-law, you're fighting your father-in-law, you're fighting your brother-in-law, your sister-in-law, you're fighting this person and the other people, there's drama has it occurred to you that you don't have to do all that? Has This is what it means by a problem being solved by a higher order or a higher level of thinking. If I'm in a household where I'm at war with my in-laws, at war with my spouse, at war with this person and that person, instead of looking for spells and rituals to dominate them and defeat them and to attack them and to do all kinds of things to them, why don't I ask myself the question, why am I there in the first place? How did I end up in that household in the first place? But most of us don't think like that. Most of us are like, no, I'm going to attack. I'm going to show them they can't mess with me. I'm going to deal with them. I'm going to subdue them. But the higher order thinking will be, how did I end up here? And how can I get out of here? Because as long as you are there involved in warfare, your nervous system will have no peace. And if your nervous system, I repeat again, is dysregulated, if it's on fire, you cannot think clearly. You can't. You will make decisions that will bite you. You will not know how to use your tools. Even if you had a magical white bird in your hand, you will not know how to use that magical white bird. You will not know the right questions or the right requests to make of that magical white bird. You will not know. You will be making piddling requests. So help me pick the beans. Help me pick the peas. Help me pick the lentils. Help me wash the clothes. It's just like somebody today going to Chat GPT and typing, what is the weather in New York today? And there are people who do that. There are people who go to Chat GPT and they treat Chat GPT like a Google. Here is my address. I live at 123 Main Street, any town, any state. And I want you to map for me how to get to my church or how to get to so place. That's how they use ChatGPT. They use it like Google. And there are people out there making money with Google. There are people out there doing great things. No, not with Google, sorry, with ChatGPT. There are some people out there doing great things, making money with ChatGPT. And some people are just there using ChatGPT. Oh, can you give me the recipe for apple pie? So, when we don't know how to use our spiritual tools, when we don't know how to use our spiritual gifts and talents, we now start blaming the system. We start blaming the gods. We start blaming our spirit guides. We start blaming our teachers. We start blaming everybody but ourselves because we're unable to think on a higher order. We're unable to think at a higher level. Why am I here? Do I recognize that I'm in a state of bondage? How do I get out of the state of bondage? Why am I living in the middle of this drama? Can I have a situation that is better than this drama? But most of us don't think like that. We're like, how do I win this drama? I want to prove that I'm right. I want to dominate. I want to do all this. If they give me one, I want to give them two. But we're rarely saying to ourselves, this is not where I'm supposed to be. I am recognizing that this relationship is not the one I'm supposed to be having. Even if you're my mother, even if you're my father, even if you're my sister, even if you're my brother, my cousin, my aunt, my uncle, my whoever, this is not the kind of relationship I want or need. And I have the right to terminate it. I have the right to establish boundaries. But no, I don't want them to say I'm a bad person. I don't want them to say that I'm wicked. I don't they're telling me things. They're saying hurtful things to me. How do I get them to stop saying hurtful things to me? Do you see that that level of thinking is not where you're supposed to be? Is that what is that what is that what where you're supposed to be? Oh, I don't know. Why are they doing this to me? How do I defend myself? Why should I be in a place where I need to defend myself? Many of us are not even asking that question. Why should I be in a place where I need to be defending myself? Why? 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 We think that defending ourselves is a normal thing to do. That's where we feel comfortable. This is what we're supposed to. But do you know that there are some people who don't live that kind of life where they're defending themselves every day? Did you know that? Did you know that there's some people that that's not part of their consciousness, having to defend themselves every day? Did you know that there's some people who wake up with peace of mind? One person was saying, the less your phone rings, the more safety you have. The less your phone rings, the more you're surrounded by genuine people. Some of us think that if our phones are constantly ringing and we're answering ringing and we're popular and everything, that all is well. Many of us think that. But it doesn't occur to many of us that we don't have to be at that level. Any questions? Any questions, any comments before we call it a night or morning, depending on where you are? Any questions, any comments? Just a quick reminder, we have the Reclaim Your Authority retreat starting next Sunday if you're interested in learning how to use your wooden doll like Vasilisa, learning how to use your golden fish like Yeshen, learning how to use your white bird like Ashimputu, then that's the retreat where you're going to learn how to do that. It's not a lecture. It's a workshop. You will work. You will learn. You will practice. You will achieve. That's what we do there. It's a workshop. It's a lab where you go to do inner work. Okay. So, what questions, comments do you have? Did you learn anything from the story of Ashimputo? Remember, I told this story in part two that I posted the other day. But then, like I said, I started digging into it and I'm saying, wait a minute, this woman is traumatized by betrayal, deep betrayal that went on for years. And the story is dressed up like a redemption story. If you are compliant, if you're obedient, if you're good, if you're pious, if you keep on praying, then all your problems will be solved. But we know from our own personal experience that that's not true because many of us have prayed, many of us have fasted, we have cast and bound. We have done all kinds of things. We have done detoxes, spiritual cleanses. We have done sacrifices. We've done rituals. We've done spells. And the problem remains. And the reason why the problem remains is because the work that needs to be done is the work on ourselves. Spirit will not do for you what you will not do for yourself. I repeat, Spirit will not do for you what you will not do for yourself. If you're unwilling to fight for yourself, fight for your freedom, if you're unwilling to establish boundaries and establish standards in your life, Spirit is not going to do that for you. Jesus ain't doing it for you. Bros J is busy minding his own business, trying to have a cold beer. He busy. Prophet Muhammad ain't coming down to do it for you neither. All your spirit guides and gods and goddesses and deities, they busy. They're not going to come and do for you what you're supposed to do for yourself, because your word is law unto spirit. So if you're out there saying, I don't want people to think this of me, I need this person's approval, I don't want this person to think I'm obstinate. Remember, I told the story of the young man, the 40-something-year-old man who was living his life according to his pastor's permission. Yet he was finding it hard to eat. He had lost his business, but he was still accepting punishment from his pastor. Some of you might remember me telling that story 2 years ago. How you are living in poverty. You walk to get to the church. Sometimes you have to walk for 1 hour to get to the church. And you have balls just like your pastor. But you allow your pastor to put you on 30 days of fasting just because you missed one evening service. You were squatting, you're living with somebody else, you're living in someone's room. It's not like you're renting your own room in a house. You are sharing a room with somebody who's paying for a room. You lost your thriving business. Your pastor has never for one day invited you to his house to come and eat a meal. His wife has never invited you, but every Sunday you're there faithful. You're one of the men that stand like sentinels before the pulpit as the pastor is preaching. You are his unpaid security guard. When he comes, you carry his briefcase, you protect him as he goes into his SUV and comes out of the SUV. But never for one day has that pastor ever said, "Come into the car, let me give you a ride to your home." Never. Yet, you allow the same pastor to put you on punishment, 30 days of fasting, just because you did not come to an evening service. And you didn't go to that evening service just because you were lazy at home. You were trying to find ways to help yourself. You were doing things on that evening to help yourself, to help improve your situation. And you didn't go to church. And the next time the pastor saw, he says, and I'm asking you, how? You are a man in your 40s. How are you allowing this? And you said to me, I don't want my pastor to think that I am being obstinate. That's what you said. I don't want my pastor to think that I am being obstinate. That's why you went ahead and did the 30 days of fasting. Don't you see that I have no business with you? I have no business with you because I don't want you to contaminate me. And, and this is what happened with Ocean Puttle. She's going through these things. She has a magical bird to transform her circumstances. She's not, eventually, after suffering for so many years, and a prince comes and chooses her. And he chooses her because of what the magical bird could do for her. On her wedding day, on the day of her freedom, she still allows her enemies to walk with her, to accompany her on her greatest day. Who does that? Many of us still do that. Many of us are walking with our enemies, and we're just like Ocean Puttle. These are her stepsisters who treated her like dirt, stripped her of her inheritance, stripped her of her clothing, made her life difficult, treated her like a slave, forced her to sleep at a fireplace in her own father's house, turned her father against her. But on her wedding day, she is accompanied by these two same sisters. Because Ocean Poodle was dependent on people approval. She was a slave to the approval of others. And there are many of us who are like that. We're slaves to people's approval. We're slaves to it. And things are not going well in our lives. And we're like, Dr. Tochi, can you tell me how to free myself? Can you tell me what I can do to free myself? These people don't like me. They hate me. They're working against my interest. They're telling me terrible things. Can you help me? But you're not willing to let these people go. Don't you see that the problem is with you? Problem is not with them, it's with you. It's with you. The problem is not with your enemies, it's with you. The problem is not with your enemies. The problem is with you. Because you do not want to leave your enemies alone. So the problem is with you. So there's no point going from person to person. Please help me, save me, do this for me, pray for me, give me anointing oil, give me a spell, give me a candle, do this for me and whatnot for me, so my enemies can leave me alone. When you have decided to live, eat, drink with your enemies, you refuse to leave the so-called enemies alone. Okay. So it looks no more questions. Okay. Remember, if you want to book a spiritual consultation with me, you can do so on my website at tochi.us or drtochi.com. If you want to find out the cause of your problems and the solutions, we'll talk about it. We'll do what we need to do to find out the cause of your problems and the solutions. But I will say this: the implementation of whatever solution that comes up during your spiritual consultation with me is up to you to implement. Your spiritual crew will not force you to implement it. I will not force you to implement it. No one will force you to implement it. It is the person who wears the shoe who knows where it pinches the most. And remember, the Arabs, yeah, have a saying: trust in Allah, but tie your camel. Trust in Allah, but tie your camel. Yes, you can do all your religious things and do all your spiritual things, and you're doing your prayers, your invocations, whatever it is you do, incantations, invocations, evocations, whatever it is you do. But all of that is meaningless if you don't do the important practical things you need to do. All of that is meaningless. Protect me from my enemies, slay my enemies, take out my enemies. But you go to your enemy to eat and drink. What sense does that make? So I'm going to put up this class on YouTube for if you want to come back and listen to the replay of it. We've been at this for about 2 hours, 30 minutes. So if you want to listen to the replay of this class, you're welcome to do so on YouTube. Learn from it and gain sense. Learn from it and gain sense, okay? We're thankful to our Creator, our guardian spirit, our ancestors, and our spirit guides for today's forbidden fruit. May it not be wasted in our lives. Ashe. Isai. Kamaga. Koza. Lasedi. Makwande. Yibabahumin. Oh, it is done. It is finished. It's complete. Amen. Ma'at. Thank you all for coming to class. Love you all.